Sofia was a young teenage girl, always full of life and laughter. She lived happily with her loving parents in a lovely house. Every morning, her mother would pack her food, and her father would drop her off at school, giving her a big hug before she ran to join her friends. At school, Sofia had many friends with whom she loved to chat and share stories. They would spend their break time playing games and laughing together. Sofia was known for her kindness and her ability to make everyone around her feel special. One day after school, Sofia decided to stay back a little longer to finish some homework with her friends. They laughed and shared snacks, unaware that the evening would change Sofia's life forever. As the sun set, she said goodbye to her friends and started her walk home. When Sofia arrived home, she expected to see her mother preparing dinner and her father reading the newspaper, but the house was unusually quiet. She called out to them, but there was no answer. Sofia checked every room, but there was no sign of her parents. She thought maybe they had gone out for a while and would return soon. As the hours passed, Sofia became increasingly worried. She tried calling her parents' phones, but there was no response. She sat on the couch, hugging herself, trying to stay calm. The night grew darker, and Sofia's worry turned into fear. By midnight, Sofia could no longer hold back her tears. She cried herself to sleep on the couch, hoping that when she woke up, her parents would be there to comfort her. The house felt empty and cold without their presence, and Sofia felt a deep sense of loneliness. The next morning, Sofia woke up with a heavy heart. Her parents were still not home. She hoped that maybe they had an emergency and would return soon. As she prepared herself for school, she couldn't shake off the feeling that something was terribly wrong. At school, her friends noticed that Sofia was unusually quiet. They tried to cheer her up, but she couldn't focus on anything other than her missing parents. She kept checking her phone, hoping for a call or message from them, but the screen remained blank. After school, Sofia rushed home, her heart pounding with anxiety. She burst through the door, calling out for her parents, but there was still no sign of them. She sank to the floor, tears streaming down her face, feeling more lost and scared than ever before. Sofia finally fell into a troubled sleep on the couch, clutching herself tightly. When she woke up the next morning, the first thing she did was call out for her parents, hoping they had come home during the night. But there was no response as the house was silent. She searched the entire house again, hoping to find a note or some clue about where they might be. She checked their bedroom, the kitchen, even the backyard, but there was nothing. Panic started to set in as the realization that they were still missing hit her hard. Sofia sat on her bed, hugging her knees to her chest. She talked to herself, trying to make sense of the situation. Where could they be? Why haven't they called? She wondered aloud, her voice trembling with fear. She thought about going to school but didn't know if she should leave the house in case her parents came back. Her mind raced with questions. Did something bad happen to them? Are they in trouble? She felt a knot in her stomach and tried to push away the worst thoughts. She decided to wait a little longer before making any decisions about school. Suddenly, Sofia's phone rang, startling her. She scrambled to answer it, hoping it was her parents. A sense of dread filled her as she saw it was an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment before answering, her voice barely above a whisper. Hello. A calm but serious voice on the other end of the line said, "Is this Sofia?" She confirmed it was, her heart pounding in her chest. The voice continued, "I'm calling from the hospital. Your parents were killed in a car accident last night." Sofia felt the world around her crumble. She dropped the phone, and everything seemed to move in slow motion as she got dizzy. The words echoed in her mind: car accident, killed. Sofia stood frozen in her living room, the words from the phone call echoing in her mind. She couldn't process the shock of the news. Her parents, the pillars of her world, were in a car accident. The shock overwhelmed her, and she let out a piercing scream, dropping the phone from her trembling hands. Her scream echoed through the quiet neighborhood, drawing the attention of concerned neighbors. Mr. and Mrs. Ken, who lived next door, was the first to arrive. They found Sofia lying unconscious on the floor. Within minutes, other neighbors arrived, forming a small crowd in Sofia's living room. They gently lifted her and rushed her to the nearest hospital, hoping she would be okay. The journey felt like an eternity, with everyone anxiously glancing at her motionless form. At the hospital, the medical staff quickly took Sofia to the emergency room. The doctors and nurses worked efficiently, checking her vital signs and ensuring she was stable. They spoke in hushed tones, aware of the fragile state she was in. Gradually, Sofia began to regain consciousness. Her eyelids fluttered open, and she found herself lying on a hospital bed. Her vision was blurry, and her head throbbed with pain. She felt disoriented, trying to piece together what had happened. As her vision cleared, Sofia saw her parents standing at the foot of her bed, smiling gently. She blinked, confused and unsure if what she was seeing was real. "Mom. Dad," she whispered, reaching out a trembling hand towards them. But as she reached out, the images of her parents began to fade, dissolving into thin air. Sofia's heart sank, realizing it was just a hallucination. The weight of reality crashed down on her again, and she felt an overwhelming sense of loss. A nurse entered the room, checking on Sofia. She explained that she had fainted from shock and was now in a stable condition. "You need to rest," the nurse said softly, placing a reassuring hand on Sofia's shoulder. "We will take good care of you." Sofia nodded weakly, tears streaming down her cheeks. She couldn't shake the image of her parents from her mind. The unreal visions had felt so real, giving her a fleeting moment of hope that was quickly snatched away. She closed her eyes, trying to find some semblance of peace. As she lay there, memories of her parents flooded her mind, their laughter, their warmth, and the love they had always shown her. She clung to those memories, drawing strength from them as she faced the uncertainty of the future. Sofia knew she had to be strong, for herself and for her parents, wherever they were. Sofia was pulled from her thoughts as a doctor entered her room, bringing her back to the harsh reality. He had a kind face, but his expression was serious. "How are you feeling, Sofia?" he asked gently, pulling up a chair beside her bed. Sofia struggled to find her voice. I'm not sure," she whispered. "What happened? How did I get here?" The doctor sighed, sitting down. "You fainted after receiving some very distressing news," he explained. "Your neighbors brought you here. You have been in and out of consciousness for a while." Sofia nodded slowly, memories of the phone call flooding back. "My parents, they were in a car accident. Are they okay?" The doctor's face softened with sympathy. "I'm very sorry, Sofia. They didn't survive the accident." Sofia's world shattered anew with the confirmation. She felt numb, unable to fully grasp the magnitude of her loss. "What will happen to me now?" she asked, her voice trembling. The doctor placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Your neighbors are here. They have been very concerned about you. They will make sure you are taken care of." A few hours later, Sofia was discharged from the hospital. Mr. and Mrs. Ken was waiting for her, their faces etched with worry and compassion. "We will take you to the orphanage," Mrs. Ken said softly. "It is a good place, and they will look after you." Sofia nodded, feeling too drained to protest. She followed them to their car, the reality of her situation sinking deeper with every step. The drive to the orphanage was silent, each of them lost in their thoughts. When they arrived, the matron of the orphanage greeted them warmly. "Welcome, Sofia," she said kindly. "We are here to support you through this difficult time." Sofia managed a small, grateful smile. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling a glimmer of hope amidst her sorrow. As the Kens said their goodbyes, Mrs. Ken hugged Sofia tightly. "If you need anything, we are just a call away," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Sofia nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you for everything," she replied, feeling a mix of gratitude and sadness as she watched them leave. The matron gently guided Sofia inside the orphanage, showing her to her new room. It was small but cozy, with a bed, a desk, and a window that let in the afternoon sunlight. "This will be your space," the matron said. "Take your time to settle in." Left alone in the room, Sofia sat on the bed and looked around. The weight of her parents' loss was heavy for her,